you may never be 100%, but there is tons of opportunity that you can get to 100% of what you can be if you're willing to put in the work.
Welcome to the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast, dedicated to you and your loved ones living at 100% for 100 years and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Plasker. Welcome, everybody, to the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast, where we are transforming health and longevity worldwide so that you and your loved ones can live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And special guest day today, good friend from the great state of Virginia, Stephen City, Virginia, correct?
Correct.
Good friend, Dr. Darrell and thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you. You're doing amazing work in your community. And, you know, we say we are transforming health and longevity worldwide. We could also say that we are transforming health and longevity in your community because you're
Correct.
doing it. And you're doing a great job. Tell us what's going on there. What are you seeing?
I think we're seeing a big shift, at least in our community, over the last 2 years. I think more and more people are looking for something different. I think talking to patients in the office, they're realizing that nobody's going to take care of them except themselves. And I think that being said, they're looking for something different. I think for better or worse, some of them felt abandoned by certain practices because you only could see people over Zoom calls versus seeing people in a physical office. And our office, we stayed open over the last 2 years. And I think that has galvanized us within our community that we're here to help you, not just for the short term. We're here to help you in the long term. When things are easy, we're here. And when things are hard, we're still going to be here.
Yeah, so true. And so glad that you did stay open for those people. And you used a word that I want to build on for a minute, because you said a lot of people felt abandoned. We are definitely seeing that in our practices and a lot of our 100-Year Lifestyle offices around the country, that people did feel abandoned, not just by their doctors, because the doctors were closed or the doctors were too busy handling crises, or the doctors were afraid to see people, but a lot of them felt like they were abandoned by the entire principle of the allopathic care, of the treat the symptom model. They felt abandoned by the belief system that they held onto maybe since they were a child. And they realized, you know what, maybe they were either being lied to, or they were being deceived, or they were being giving misinformation. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think that is what a lot of the people felt, because they would go to these providers that are supposed to give them quality information, but then all of a sudden things just didn't start making sense. They were kind of connecting dots, and their providers weren't giving them good answers. And I think that made them question at a deeper level, like, why am I going? I mean, not to pick on them, but why am I going to this pediatrician when I just want to know what's wrong with my kid? But every time I go in, they're shoving another medication. They're shoving another vaccine at us. And now they're even shoving one that doesn't even make sense to us because it wasn't even tested for children. And I think that really has caused them to make this shift and I don't think they knew they were shifting towards chiropractic. They were just shifting to something different.
Well, and it's not necessarily that they were shifting towards chiropractic, but I think it's a natural choice for so many people, because what people were realizing is, you know what, my baby started with 2 tiny cells, grown to quadrillions of cells, grew up to be an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and they did it without any guidance. You know, They did it because there was an innate intelligence, not that they necessarily called it that. And they started to realize, you know what, I trust all of that more than I trust the pharmaceutical company that's making $100 billion off of this vaccine with no liability when there are injuries and for something that doesn't even exist as a threat to children.
Correct.
And so it was, you know, we have seen, and we've talked about it on other podcasts, and we've talked about it with, you know, in lectures that we've given all over the country and all over the world, how more and more people are coming into our office saying, you know what, I just don't trust that system anymore, not just the provider anymore, but the entire system. So here you are, you know, as providing great care as the primary care provider for so many people in your community, but it's different primary care. It's primary care with a natural flair, like we've talked about. What does that mean to you for your community and your people?
Well, I think for me, and I just was stating it to somebody yesterday. I'm here to help you as best that I can, but as much as you choose to have me help you. So I'm going to give you my best recommendations, and it's up to you to choose. We really stress in our office personal choice and personal responsibility. And I really think that's an important thing. Not that I can't tell you what to do. I mean, I can, but I think really what people want to hear, here's my options and let me choose what I want. And I think the more people get those options, they actually will make better choices. But sometimes they have to make a couple bad choices before they're really ready to commit to something different. But if I come at them with a heavy hander, what classically happens in most medical offices, they're just going to shut the door and never come back. And I'm not going to be able to help them though. But I try to have that very authentic conversation as this is your responsibility. But I'm here to help you how you choose to, but you need to decide how much you want me to help you.
Yeah, I think the big thing is even beyond the choice. It's like, what are the options? I mean, like literally people are choosing from a completely different premise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're choosing to either optimize the way the body functions by having a healthy nervous system with good nutrition, good choices, trusting the body, or they're choosing from a premise of, wow, I'm scared as hell and I don't know what to do, and just cover up my symptoms because my baby cried, or cover up my allergies, even though they're constant, even though we're eating really bad food and making really bad choices. And yes, I had a traumatic birth and that was probably the cause or the root of so many of my problems, but I'm just going to treat the symptoms and mask them with drugs. No, you're bringing a different premise, a
Mm-hmm.
premise of the body's ability to heal itself, the innate ability of the body to adapt if there's no interference. That to me is at the essence of those choices, don't you?
I agree. No, I agree. And I think a lot of people, that's what they want. They just don't know the wording for it. I mean, you ask anybody, if you get a cut, who heals it? Well, your body does. Okay, well, if it works on that, what I'll say a smaller scale, why can't it work on a larger scale if we can give it what it needs? You got to get good food. You got to have good movement, good thoughts, but that nervous system is what ties it all together. And I try to stress them, it's not more important. It's just it's important. So if we take care of that facet, all those other things you're doing is going to work better. And cool things happen all the time if we can do those simple things.
So what's a cool thing? What's a cool thing in the world of what you're talking about?
I mean, I think sometimes it's just somebody as simple as they're able to start walk. They can just go for a walk and they don't hurt. Or I have a guy that installs hardwood floors, and he came in pretty bad shape, and he hadn't had to miss a single day of work because his body was able to, first he felt better, but he has been able to work harder. He can go play basketball and he still feels good, but he understands his body's also functioning better. And I think that's kind of opened his eyes because, I mean, you probably see a lot of people in construction, general contractors, as they get older, a lot of them are broken men. And yes, it's the work, but it's their body's inability to adapt to the stress. And if we can help you adapt better, you can work longer and have a better health at the same time.
Yeah, so true. And those are, I think, are the most common things that people hear about getting your nervous system corrected, chiropractic care, things like that. What I think is the most amazing thing, the miracles, the real miracles, are when we're seeing families, babies and kids, newborn babies, kids learning to walk, and families that are changing their perspective of care. We have said many times that for us, we raised our kids, for example, without shots, without drugs, and without pediatricians. Not
Mm-hmm.
because we were mad at them or anything like that. We just realized that, what, if we had a tape measure, if we had a scale, and if we had common sense,
Mm-hmm.
then our babies would have the ability to be healthy and thrive and function at a very high level. And it worked out for us, even in spite of certain injuries and things like that happened along the way. And listen, we're not foolish. If there was something that was an emergency, we would take them to the
Yeah.
pediatrician, but it wasn't very often. It was very, very rare. And I know that you have seen the same thing. Talk
Mm-hmm.
about some of that type of care, the family care, the children that you're seeing, and how it's impacting the family's life.
I think we hear a lot about babies coming in like latching issues. And when we adjust them, the babies latch better. And that's such a critical part of development. But I think the cooler things is when we have parents that start under care, but then they have a child that they're pregnant and they have a child, and that child doesn't have those issues that their older siblings have. I heard somebody call it like the silent miracles. Like,
Yeah, that was us,
yeah,
by the way.
that was you. Okay. Like, they, their older child had issues and their older child's doing better, but their next 2, 3 kids never had the issues because they already had a better start to life because the parents, yeah, chiropractic care is a part, but it allowed them to shift all their perspectives of what they were doing. And I think that's really cool when I see a family that I start with only one child and now they have 4 more and they've all been getting regular chiropractic care. And you hear it all the time. They're like, yeah, my kid's different, not in a bad way, but like my kid just doesn't get as sick. Or if they have an issue, they get over it quicker. It just, and we call it in our office, just it's Chiro kids. Chiro kids are just different in such a cool way.
I did an interview with Del Bigtree about 6 months ago, and he was talking about how he would be out there giving a talk. He travels all over the world, gives these talks about health and vitality and informed consent and healthcare freedom and medical freedom. And he said, it was very funny how he said it. He said, invariably at the end of the talks, people would be coming up to him to say hello, to say thank you, give him a hug. And he would see these bright, shining faces coming through the crowd. And he would think to himself, wow, here come the chiropractors. And it really is true. We see that a lot. And so, parents, because they are in a place of uncertainty, in your office, in your mind, what are some of the things that you want parents to know and people to know about making a choice and making a shift from a allopathic mindset perspective to a vitalistic, self-healing, self-regulating perspective?
I think one of the biggest things that I try to talk to them is just trusting. You kind of touched on it yourself, like raising your kids consciously without shots. And maybe not everybody's comfortable with that, but trust you're a smart person. You're a parent. You know your child better than any doctor out there. And you need to trust that instinct. If something is wrong, you keep investigating it. And if you don't think it's a big deal, it a lot of times isn't a big deal. If you're in an allopathic model, they're going to keep making it seem like a big deal, and it can scare you a lot. So just trying to empower them to trust that instinct that they have as parents. And we all question as parents. I mean, I have 3 wonderful kids, and my wife and I were just talking today, like, as parents, you just do the best you can, and you really don't know. But we also do it from a premise of we're giving them good food. We get them exercise. They get adjusted all the time. So we really are trying to eliminate major things, and we just trust in the process and then course correct as we're going. Like, hey, this isn't working. We need to do something different right here. And I try to stress that with our parents, just to trust that instinct. And then where do you want to go with your child? And are you actually heading that direction? Because if you're not, let's make some simple changes that can start heading you to where you want to go.
Yeah. And as you make that journey, don't you find that parents start to get tremendous confidence because they start to see the simple changes and they add up? It's like, and when you're on the other side and you say, you have to take this. Oh, well, this drug caused this problem. So now you have to take this and this. And then the 2 of those cause this. And then the vaccine caused this. Now you have to take this. But just the opposite is true when you start to trust the body and you trust the body's innate intelligence. Like, wow, that really simple step, that really made a difference. And wow, that food change, wow, that really made a difference. And wow, that correction of the upper neck, wow, that really made a difference. And you start to develop, I think, a high-tech BS meter to distinguish between common sense and nonsense.
Yeah, no, I really think they do, because they kind of just have this, like, almost like guardrails that okay, I'll stay within those guardrails, and you're on the outside. Man, that's crazy town over there. Let's just go back to what we know, what works for our kids.
Awesome. And so, we talk about a lot from the crisis care, this lifestyle care continuum, from crisis care, taking people, parents, families, athletes through this crisis care, through this critical transition to lifestyle care. And I want to talk about your situation, because you were tested about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. You were personally tested about your beliefs. You had a bad bike accident.
I did.
That messed you up.
Totally.
Yeah. Talk about that, and talk about the fear initially about how it was affecting your life, what happened to you, and talk about some of the choices that you made. And now here you are, you had a long-term 100-year lifestyle vision for yourself in mind, and you are back
Hmm.
probably better than ever, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Talk about that process for you, because you went through what a lot of people, a lot of your patients, a lot of people that are listening to this all over the country and all over the world have gone through or will go through.
Yeah. So what he's alluding to, 2 years ago, well, it's 2 years ago in about a month, I crashed my mountain bike. I broke my clavicle in 5 different pieces. I broke 8 ribs. All ribs that broke, they actually shifted. So my ribs kind of went like this. And I punctured my lung. I was in ICU for 24 hours. I was in a hospital for 3 nights. I got released from the hospital, ended up having to go back in a hospital because my lung filled up with fluid 2 separate times. And in that process, I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I do surgery on my clavicle? Because I actually thought my clavicle just broke in 3 pieces, not 5 pieces. So, and I had a practice. The sole doctor in our office. And my wife stays home with the kids, so I am the provider for my family. And was texting Dr. Plasker here. I was in contact with the doctor from New Jersey who was willing to come down to my office. And I think the biggest thing I learned is it was humility is part of it. Because I mean, medicine's important. Emergency medicine was awesome. My surgeon did a great job. At the same time, I saw the worst of our medical professions. I was sitting in a hospital bed and my call button was sitting on a couch, and I have a chest tube sticking out of me, and I can't leave my bed, and I can't even call the nurse for anything because they're so understaffed that I'm just laying in a hospital bed. I had 3 different surgeons come in, my lung wouldn't seal, and nobody had an answer for me. And I was just kind of getting pushed to the next person. So I kind of saw that part that a lot of people I think see of the medical model.
Yeah,
And
and let me just stop you there for a second. The knowledge base that you have as a doctor of chiropractic, understanding the body's ability to heal itself, having that as a foundation, how did that help you to work with your doctor to get what you wanted in order to heal, which I think is such an important piece that we find a lot of our people that do end up in crisis care situations where because they understand the body because of the time they've spent here with 100-year lifestyle and chiropractic understandings and the science and the neurology and all of that. How did that help you get what you really truly needed to heal?
I think what it allowed me to do, especially when I got readmitted to the hospital, was the main reason I was in a hospital was to get surgery on my clavicle, try to get my the fluid out of my lung, and just get home. Because I knew if I could get home, that's actually when that's where I was gonna heal. I just needed to have crisis care here and on my lung. And once I left the hospital, I knew I would heal. I mean, I had some pretty low points because I was extremely active. I have 3 young kids. At the time, they were 8, 5, and 3. But I knew my body would heal. Like deep down, I knew that it would, which allowed me to also focus on my recovery. I found a doctor to cover our office. So I removed that from my plate. My wife was amazing. We had my in-laws came down, my parents came down to help out so I could just focus on healing, because I knew if I could get through that first stages of healing, I would get through it. And I had this very wise OT, and she really helped me square my head away. She's like, Darrell, you didn't injure yourself. You had trauma, and trauma takes months to heal. And as soon as she told me that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a long haul game. Okay, what things do I need to get in place now? So over the long haul, I'm going to make a full recovery. And
Yeah.
that's what happened.
That's huge. The long haul, which I think that's what makes the 100-year lifestyle consciousness, when we say the 100-year lifestyle way, such an important part of this whole conversation and process, because these are all of these choices that we think are, well, I got to solve it right now. But we solve things right now that create so many more problems down the road that if you always took, yes, there are things you need to handle in the moment, but if you could handle them in the moment with a long-term perspective and vision in mind, it really does change everything, because you set up your life to solve the problem and move forward rather than solving the problem and then setting up a whole new series of problems that last a lifetime. And that's what we share with parents a lot of times when they're bringing in their kids or young athletes, or really athletes of all ages, is, if you knew you'd live to 100, 80, 90, 100, how would you make a decision today that will not just help you in the moment today, but also be the right decision for you for the long haul, which is exactly what you did.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's so important for people?
Well, I think we live in a society, it's all about now, but always living in the now is really going to hurt us in the future. I mean, and I think that was for me. I mean, I could have came back to the office a couple weeks sooner, but I didn't. So it allowed me to heal better. So I was able to be a better chiropractor when I was in the office, which then it just helped me grow as a person. But I probably would have hurt myself again. I mean, and I probably would have to miss more time that way. And I think in our society, and you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, like I feel like we always think complexity is better, where simplicity is where it's at. Doing the simple things consistently is usually the best option. The more complex something is, I know we think it sounds better, it makes us feel smarter, but I really think it takes us down the wrong path versus just make simple decisions with that long-term goal. What is that long-term goal? And if that goal really is what you want, it just takes effort to get there.
Simple is where it's at. There is no doubt about it. Simple is where it's at. Here you are now, because we talk about there's so many things that are a part of this, the world that you have created. There is the world, and then there's your world, and the world that you are creating for yourself and your family. We talk a lot about in the 100-Day Lifestyle, prime time, prep time, and playtime, it's important that as people are living longer, there's some amazing longevity reports that just came out that are, one was done by AARP, one was done by Edward Jones, the financial institution, one was done by the Lancet, British Medical Journal that talked about everything that we've been talking about from a longevity perspective is exactly right on point. And we were talking about it in 2005, long before all of these people even realized that this trend was happening. So I'm honored to say that we set the curve and have been teaching this for a long time. And you have embraced the balance issue of all of that with prime time, prep time, and playtime, with settling in, with not chasing cool, talk about how your life has evolved as you have really kind of settled into all of that. How has that changed your life?
Well, as I stated, like I have a young family and I have a thriving practice, and both of those are important to me. So my day is actually structured around that. I have office hours, but I have a long lunch break, but I think a lot of people's like, why don't you just work through your lunch break? It's because it allows me to take a break from serving the public. I get refreshed. I get around my kids. We do a family run almost every day. The kids are biking or rollerblading. And it just helps me kind of refresh to go back in the afternoon and help more people. Then I take a morning off on Tuesday and Thursday, same thing. I'm able to make my kids breakfast, able to take them to swim if that's what they're doing at that time. And then I go help the public in the afternoon. And I think long term, I think it's just going to allow me to, of course, be a better father to my children, but I'm actually a better doctor for it because I am able to kind of stay fresh with them. I don't hit a wall in the office. I don't hit that 6-hour wall that maybe a lot of people hit at work, because I purposely have a break that allows me to recharge and go back and serve the public.
Awesome. And, it's interesting. Our world today is so insane, so crazy, so much stress, so much fear, so much disinformation, so much misinformation. People have lost their way. And so, as we wind down on this interview, which so grateful to have the opportunity to have you share your message and what you're doing with all of that insanity in the world that is going on. If you could just take a minute or two and tell people what you want them to know, what would you want them to know?
I think I'd want them to know that first, their body is amazing, no matter where you are in the health spectrum. I think it's easy to say when you feel healthy, you can do better. Like you're kind of looking down upon people, but going through the injury I have gave me a new perspective on people that are in pain coming into the office. And you may never be 100%, but there is tons of opportunity that you can get to 100% of what you can be. if you're willing to put in the work. And like we said, it's not easy, but it is simple, but it takes effort, it takes consistency, but seeing it over and over, you're going to get rewarded probably more than you even think you could be by just doing simple things. And I think the other thing is question everything. If you go to a healthcare provider, whether it's a doctor, a medical doctor, chiropractor, acupuncturist, question them. And if they're not willing to address your questions, hightail it out of the office, because they're hiding something from you, whether it's lack of confidence, lack of knowledge, or they're just truly in it for another reason. If they're not willing to address your questions, I'd be gone. I think now, today, more than ever, as people, we are the consumer, and the doctor is on the same playing field, if not below the patients. The patients are the drivers of the bus.
And you certainly are the driver of your bus, for sure. And, it's interesting because a lot of times they don't answer the question. There's two reasons. Number one is they're too busy and you are inconveniencing them, which if they're too busy to answer your questions, they're too busy to give you the appropriate care. That's number one. Number two, which is even more common and which is the biggest reason to hightail it out of there, fire your doctor and go find somebody else, is they don't have the answer. And the way cancel culture, what you're saying too is, which I love, is that cancel culture is not acceptable. You should not allow yourself to be canceled.
Correct.
And if you are canceled, and if you are being canceled, your questions are being canceled, it's probably because they're trying to make you feel bad so you won't ask another question, but more importantly, because they do not have an answer. And Dr. Darrell, Stephen City, Virginia, you have the answer, my friend. So
well, thank you.
So excited for you, the difference that you're making. Your community needs you more than ever. Listen, everybody, if you're anywhere near Stephen City, go visit them at Active Health Chiropractic, right? activehealth-chiropractic.com. You can find them on 100yearlifestyle.com. They're one of our 100-year lifestyle doctors. And so seek them out. And so with that, everybody remember, your 100 is coming. You're still here. Your 100 is coming. You make the call. See you next time. Thank you so much for joining us on the 100-Year Lifestyle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have topics that you want us to cover, people you want us to interview, maybe you have some stories that you want to share, stories of yourself, loved ones, people in your life, we would love to hear from you and share your story. Please email us at my100@100yearlifestyle.com. And remember, nobody wants to get to 100 or even 50, 60, or 70 for that matter, crippled, broke, and alone. So please share the 100-Year Lifestyle, all of our podcasts, social media pages, website with your family, friends, and coworkers so they can take this journey with you. And until next time, adjust your lifestyle. Live your best life today and every day on the road to a sensational century. Dr. Plasker, signing off.